So today we went to one of the oldest cemeteries in Santa Fe. So I wanted to show you this cemetery. There's a lot of old graves at this cemetery from the 1800s. Originally, I went to take flowers to my brother's grave and visit my mom, my great-grandma, and some other family I had there, so I'm going to show their graves. But after that, I'm going to show you this old cemetery. So this is Fairview Cemetery in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So this right here is my mom, Priscilla Martinez's grave. She overdosed in 2002. Then this one over here is my great-auntie Kathy Crane. We called her Cocky. She died in 2008 from carbon monoxide poisoning. And then up here we have my great-grandma Florence Crane. She was born in 1915 and died when I was 6 years old in 1994. Then we have my brother Daniel Martinez, who died of alcohol, a cardiac arrest due to alcohol last year. But check out this cemetery. When you look it up on Google, Fairview Cemetery is labeled the oldest cemetery in Santa Fe. But I have reasons of my own to believe that there's an older one. I know of an older one, right downtown by the plaza. But this is an old cemetery, so I'm going to show you some of these graves. Some of these graves are 1800s, and some of them are 1900s, early 1900s, but most of them are 1800s. If you look at this one, it says this guy was a governor of New Mexico from 1931 to 1933, Arthur Seligman. So I found a lot of gems in this cemetery. These are people who lived in the Wild West days. They were born in the 1800s and they died in the early 1900s. Some of them lived older, some of them lived younger. 1887 to 1930. So the reason I like this cemetery is for the fact that it's old. But if you notice, on the other side of the fence over there, there's an older cemetery. So I wanted to go check that cemetery out. Let me check out a few more of these graves. So this cemetery was the final resting place to a lot of people who lived in Santa Fe in the late 1800s. Early 1900s, but a lot of them were born in the 1800s and died in the early 1900s. If you pay attention to their years, all of them seem to have been born in the 1800s. 1882 to 1927. Now, I don't know who these people are, but I want to send my condolences to their family and give a shout out, an RIP, to all of them. Now see, this is the old cemetery across the fence. On one side it's barbed wired, on the other side it has a chain link fence, and then it's blocked off by some cables. So I don't know if we're allowed in here or not, but I wanted to record it from the outside. And I'm also gonna go in and check it out a little bit, but this is what it looks like from the outside. So from the other side of the fence, it looks like a real ancient cemetery, and I wondered why it's blocked off. So I came by to check it out. You could tell the weeds haven't been pulled, they haven't sent the city. So I cross over the fence, and this is what I find. Graves overgrown with weeds and trees, and it's hard to see the years on them. When you look closely at the years, this person was born in 1819 and died in 1900. So they were living in the Wild West days. They never even heard of a car. That one I can't really see. And a lot of them are like that on this side of the fence. I just wanted to browse through a couple of them, but they were so interesting and it looked so cool that I kept walking and checking them out. Now if you notice, a lot of these names on these tombstones are white names. There's a couple Spanish ones, but most of them are white. Now, I also went to Rosario Cemetery to visit my family today, and I went to visit their old site, and there's a lot from the 1800s, from when New Mexico was part of Mexico, and I'm going to share that one with you after this, or maybe tomorrow. But I did go to another cemetery today, and it had graves older than this, graves that are breaking and shattering. They're so old, they're falling apart, so I'll share that one with you too. But this was the one I went to first, and it's supposed to be the oldest in Santa Fe. I don't know what this is. I didn't really want to mess with nobody's graves. You know, I don't like doing that. It's disrespectful. I didn't want to step in nobody's graves. I didn't want to go into the little caged area. It's caged for a reason, you know. But we really don't know nothing about this site. We don't even know if this is still part of Fairview Cemetery or if it's a separate private cemetery. But if you notice, there's so much weeds. They haven't pulled the weeds. They had weed whackers whacking the weeds on the other side while we were there. So they don't maintenance this side. It's hard to see what this one is. 1881 is when they died. Wow, another Wild West one. This one is unmarked. I couldn't find a name on either side. It's either unmarked or it's so old the name faded off. There's a few graves in the other cemetery where the name faded off. Now this, I don't know if this is somebody's burial site or if it's just something somebody made, but I like it, so I recorded it. It looks ancient. But anyway, I just wanted to show you this old cemetery in Santa Fe from the 1800s. My mom is buried here, my grandma is buried here, and some other family. Wait till you see the next one though, it's even older. Anyway, this is Trajity. Hope you learned something new. Thank you for watching. I'm out. So I went to another cemetery. This one's Rosario Cemetery where my brother is buried. Originally, I went today to visit my homie Matt Cordova, who passed away last year. But I also was going to visit my brother and everybody else. And I also wanted to visit the old part of the cemetery. So I did. And there was a lot of old graves from the 1800s. Some graves were so old they're crumbling. Let me show you. So we started off with this memorial dedicated to the veterans from and around Santa Fe who died during World War II. There's a grip of names etched in here, at least 50, it's hard to read them though. But this says, dedicated to the men of Santa Fe and vicinity who gave their lives in World War II. So the National Cemetery is right next to this cemetery, and that's where all the veterans are buried. It's where my grandpa's gonna be buried since he was in Vietnam. So this is my homie Matt Cordova's grave. He died last year, suicide, and this is where he rests at. So rest in peace to Matt Cordova. This is my brother JP, who got killed in 2005, stabbed. Anthony Jaramillo, who got blasted, shot in 2003 with the 12 gauge. And this next one right here is Amanda Panda Herrera, who died in a car crash with Baby G and another female 7 days before my brother in 2005. Now this is the old cemetery, 1826 to 1875. This person lived when this was still Mexico and when it was the United States. A lot of these are in Spanish, because a lot of these people were Hispanic or Mexican, because New Mexico used to be part of Mexico, you know. So in 1821, the Mexican War of Independence was successful and they kicked the Spaniards out of Mexico, and this became Mexico. New Mexico was a northern state. That's why a lot of these are in Spanish, and if you notice the years, they're in the 1800s. These people lived through the time when this was Mexico and when it transitioned into a territory of the United States. There was one that said 1800 to 1880 some or something. That means that person lived when it was still part of New Spain, then when it transitioned over to Mexico, and then when it transitioned over to the United States. So these people lived in the Wild West days. They were alive during the Lincoln County War, the Colfax County War, the days of Alfego Baca, the days when people were riding around on horses and wagons. So if you look at these years, you'll notice that. And if you look at the last names, that's another thing to notice. So you'll notice some of these graves have fallen over, collapsed, and even broken. This one looks like somebody did it on purpose. See, this used to be standing, all these graves, but they're so old you can't even read that one. But they're so old that they've fallen over and started crumbling. These graves are probably so old they don't even have family to visit them no more, and if they do, their family don't even know about them maybe, or or they just leave them as a memorial, I'm not sure. But look how ancient it makes it look. These are from the 1800s, early 1900s are some of them. Most of them are in the 1800s though. Check out the dates. Most of them lived and died in the 1800s, and some of them were born in the 1800s and died in the early 1900s. Some of them are just fragments of graves, that's how old they are. This one says Manderfield, 1888, which was interesting to me because I went to a preschool called Manderfield, and this looks like a big, important, expensive grave, so maybe it was the same person, named after the same person. I love the way this cemetery looks from this spot though, watch. I don't know who lives in that trailer. I was expecting them to come out and tell us we're not allowed to be there or something, but nobody came and told us nothing. So I don't know if it's private owned or what. But we came through a walk through this cemetery to check out these graves, and I'm glad I did. There's a lot of gems in here. People we don't know. Well, people I personally don't know of. Manderfield's a familiar name just because I went to a school by that name. Anyway, check out some more of these graves. See how they're falling apart, crumbling? This one, the top broke off, but they just leaned it against it, and you could tell it's the top of it. It was like an obelisk. Herbert Enskfeld. I don't know how to pronounce that. Manuela Garcia. Oh, I can't read that one either. That one's sick though. I like the way it looks. I would like to come walk through here around Halloween time in the nighttime. And Fairview Cemetery, the old side. Ghosts don't scare me. They would probably be friends with me and shit. Half my family and homies are dead, so they are ghosts. They kick it with me all the time. I like the way that these are so old. They're crumbling and falling apart. I like the way some of these graves are so magnificent, like this one. You could tell that's expensive. If you've ever had to bury somebody and do a funeral, you know how expensive it could be, so you know these were expensive graves. I mean, they weren't cheap at least. This one's one of my favorites. This one is one of my favorites. There's a lot of Delgados. There's a lot of Romeros. Romero is one of the founding surnames of New Mexico, as well as Martinez, Serrano, you know, maybe Delgado, because I see a lot of Delgados here, but I'm really not sure. Maybe they just all buried their family here. There's also a lot of Garcias. There's another Delgado. That one's sick. There's actually a whole family buried in this spot. A few of them. See? Another Garcia. Anyway, this is my walk through Rosario Cemetery, through the old side. Anyway, this is Trajity. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something new. I'm out. We'll do more walks through other cemeteries in the future.
Eres, fuiste y será la que mi cora nunca soltará. No está en mi presente, pero en mi mente dejaste una marca permanente. Dime qué haces, hoy bajé pa'l casa. De roce dando vueltas por ahí, con la ilusión de verte y decirte: oye,